Alright, so free market capitalism, establishing the reality in your citizens' heads that if I work, I get a reward, and the harder I work, the greater my reward, is going to be absolutely critical if you want to build a thriving nation like or similar to the United States, right? Economically, the United States is the richest nation in the world. Understanding this is going to be important because while the U.S. has flaws, right, we need to be a lot harder on crime. We're cracking down on corruption, right? There's about $1 trillion, $1 to $2 trillion in corruption a year in the U.S., something like that. These things, they have effects that are very, very difficult for mankind to measure, right? There's a shooting in a city, and you don't really know what happens. You don't know if 10 people leave, or the city says, that was it, that's the last one, I'm out of here, and 100,000 people leave, right? Lo and behold, crime has been rising in immigration numbers. People leaving has also been rising in the U.S., right? So when these people leave, it's really bad. You lose a ton of money that would have been generated for the next 50 to 80 years, something like that. It's a lot. That's a lot of tax dollars, etc., etc., etc. This is going to be stemming from love, right? If you love your citizens, you protect your citizens. Jesus says that by this everyone will know that you're my disciples if you love one another. Okay? Love given grows, and it will attract the wealth of the world into your nation. Okay, but love hoarded, it dwindles, and hatred will repel. Okay, so giving into Islamism, where you're turning girls into sex slaves and you're ruling over them viciously, this is not going to ever result in a successful nation. Any nation that does not tackle this, it is likely that at some point Islam will find a way to sneak in. And so you see Denmark driving out Muslims, you see China driving out Muslims. This is the correct thing to do. If they're telling you they're going to enslave and kill and rape you, you probably shouldn't let them in your nation. Probably shouldn't be rocket science, but there are a ton of nations just letting these people in. And the effects, not caring about your citizens, letting girls be raped in Dearborn, Michigan, USA, letting people get pummeled and not addressing it, that's foolishness. Okay, and lo and behold, crime in Dearborn, Michigan skyrocketing, economics are tanking, etc., etc., etc. It's 100% foolishness. Do not ever follow a model that's not based on love. Okay, you can tell that God is a God of love because you look out the window and everything is peaceful, life is tranquil, life is good, God is love. Okay, so don't ever lose sight of that. Okay, now understanding that currently the U.S. sort of has a monopoly on several very, very inspirational merits. And this is going to be a big mistake that these other nations are not following suit in. Okay, you see the USA looking at what's going on in Iran, civilians getting attacked and slaughtered, and the only nation that's saying we're going to go in and protect those civilians is the USA. Do you know who that's inspiring? It's inspiring every person in the entire world. Okay, that's love. You say, you know what, these people need our help, we're going in. And so if you are one of these ally nations, the smartest thing you could do is get on the phone and say, if the U.S. is going in and there's something wrong happening, we want to stand against evil with them. Okay, this is going to inspire your people. It is going to establish the foundation that will cause a nation to thrive. It is not always going to be tangible. In fact, the foundation of a nation, right, the morality, the ways of the people, is never tangible. Okay, but lo and behold, you can see the effects of these ideologies manifesting, and they have called the wealth of the nations, the wealth of the world, to the United States, right? U.S. stands for freedom. Okay, you don't see any other world leaders getting up and saying, we stand for freedom. Freedom of speech will not be violated. That's what we do, right? That will inspire patriotism. Okay, and so there's about a list of 50 of these merits that highly successful people follow, and Lo and behold, the U.S. has got a lot of them. Now, the U.S., we're cracking down on crime. That's one of our major problems, but we're addressing it. And so, identifying things like this that are inspirational, right? They manifest into the people of all the people of the nation following them, right? Everybody in the U.S. says we value freedom of speech, right? So understanding that's important, because when you get that the foundation of a nation right, you can bet that the nation is going to excel. Also, right, this is Ursula von der Leyen. The nations of the EU have been unable to become outliers in the world for about 50 years, okay? So if you're having a kind of corrupt organization hovering over you, while some people like to say, oh, these people are the smartest, or those people are smartest, really, we're all not that much smarter than each other, right? Steve Jobs says the whole world changes when you realize that it was all built by people that are no better and no smarter than you. And so understanding this is going to be really important, because if you're letting some other commission or whatever take the reins over your short life, it's an error, okay? Crime is one of the first things that I look at when I am moving. Okay, if I look at an area that says high crime, I'm not going there unless I'm going there on missionary work. Okay, so this is going to be the X feed, right? This lady in India was beaten, and 7 men jumped her, and her husband robbed her, choked the husband. Okay, this is about the worst thing you want in your nation, right? So when you see this, right, addressing it and making sure that the nation has known that your people have addressed it is going to be critically important, right? India, lo and behold, it doesn't report very high crime, but actually I see videos quite often of crime taking place in India. And so making sure that Islamist jihadis or things like that are not clashing in your nation, right? If people keep clashing with you, you say you drive them out of one city, then you drive them out of the next, right? Any city that's a statistical outlier, right? And if it's a severe statistical outlier, you send in the blackguard, okay? Desperate times call for desperate measures, okay? If there is some city like Detroit in the USA or something like that, it needs to be addressed if you want your nation to thrive. Lo and behold, what we see is this has not been addressed in the U.S., and city after city, it is spreading more and more and holding the U.S. back further and further, right? That is what will happen in any nation that permits it to continue, right? They're not going to stop, right? Evil doesn't stop. You have to stop it. Okay, so understanding this is going to be extremely important, and gauging, right, when you can use a soft hand, when you can jail them, and when you need to take drastic measures is going to be extremely important, because all throughout the EU we're seeing it. And lo and behold, right, the crime is rising, immigration is rising, the GDPs are stagnant, okay? You cannot have crime in a nation and have a thriving nation. It doesn't work, okay? The U.S., what's happening in the U.S. is everybody's fleeing into the middle of the U.S., and Donald Trump is hopefully addressing crime. But if it doesn't get addressed, the U.S. will collapse. That's the truth of it, okay? So, right, corruption, okay? If there is corruption slowing down your nation, there's about $1 trillion in corruption, somewhere around there in the USA, it will be slowing down the economy, and it will be holding your nations back. This has been effectively holding back many EU nations for over 50 years now. Okay, so if you don't address the corruption, if you don't get free of it, you will never be an outlier, right? Nobody wants to be finishing 7th place in a race. Okay, that's the truth of it. And so this is a prophecy I gave. More nations will leave the EU. That's going to happen soon. Okay. Now, again, right, love is the foundation. It's the most important part. Nobody wants to live a life without love. Oh, I hated my life. It sucked. Nobody wants that, right? They all want to love their life. And so Jesus is always emphasizing love, okay? So make sure to remember love and mercy. Okay, that's what's going to attract. Interestingly enough, Japan is up here with only 120 million people. These are some very smart, very hard-working cookies, okay? And if you've met Japanese people, oftentimes they're very respectful, very loving, okay? And this is sort of the core culture of the USA. The majority of us are very, very hardworking, very loving, good people, but there are, the others are massing up, and it has to be stopped, right? You have to either, you go full China, right, where you're just letting Chinese people in, or you have to teach, you have to force them to adopt the ways of Christianity, okay? So understanding, and by the ways of Christianity, I mean being loving to one another. I don't mean forcing religion down people's throats. If you love one another can be interpreted as only Christians, it can be only people of the faith, or accurately, it's only good people, okay? You're to love people who are being loving to you. Christians or people of the faith, we're not pacifists where people are attacking us and we're still loving them. People of the faith, disciples, followers of Christ, right? Christ says, by a sword, drive them out. I've come with a sword to divide, right? A sword does not divide easily, right? It's not just sitting there on a shelf and it divides on itself. No, someone has to pick it up and cause the division. Okay, so understanding that Jesus is very deep with what he's saying, and to what he's saying, it starts at love and it dwells at love and mercy a long time. But then the sword comes out. Okay, so this is going to be very important because you cannot stop crime sometimes without using the sword. Understanding that is important. This will boil down to the prophets. Being learned and studying has been linked to an increase in the IQ levels of nations, right? So the top IQ nations are going to be China, Japan, and understanding this is going to be important because the Bible does not tout lays or ease, right? There is a man in thy kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy gods, and in the days of thy father light, understanding, and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods. Okay, this is how the prophet Daniel is referenced, right? David is writing all these psalms. Solomon was the wisest man in the world, right? Understanding that these are touted, they are things that build the proper foundation of a nation. Without them, your nation will fall into ignorance, fall behind other nations, and ultimately be destroyed. Okay, so wisdom like the wisdom of gods is not Daniel was chilling in his bed on the couch all day or watching TV. Daniel was working, studying all the time. Okay, understanding this is important so that you don't get led away into false theologies that are better than true. God will give you wisdom. God will lead you to wisdom. God will give you wisdom in certain fields, right? Spiritual things like that. But understanding that there is a lot of work in being a person of the faith, and not just coming to the table thinking you're going to be the smartest person, something like that. It's going to be important. Now, this love that Christ is talking about also plays into a few other things. So here's Warren Buffett saying, if you lose money for the firm, I will be understanding. If you lose reputation, I will be ruthless. Okay, and so here's why. Vladimir Putin in Russia, and this is an example of being far too wrathful. This is a little 39-year-old ballerina that, this is some little girl, okay? She's looking at the freedom of speech in the USA, and she says, that's awesome, man, I want to talk like that. So maybe she starts talking about that, like that, towards Putin or the Russian government, Ukraine war. And she was saying some things, but she was speaking and doing nothing. And lo and behold, no slap on the wrist, no warning, no mercy at all. The Russian government breaks in. They throw her out of a 5-story building. She dies. Okay, that's wrath towards the realms of evil. Okay, so understanding that there is a balance between Russia, China, and the United States. China is far too much, the U.S. is far too much mercy. Russia, this is an example of, and there are other examples of Russia being far too wrathful, right? And so what this will do, right, Russians, they say, oh, people are afraid of us. Yeah, well, they have a reputation of people being afraid of them, right? And so while China's GDP is 4 trillion, Russia's GDP is only 2.5 trillion. Okay, it's not attractive. People don't want to go to some place they can get thrown out the window. And I'll go over a couple of other points, but this one is really, really important, right? If you don't love people, if you're not giving them mercy, slap on the wrist, they're saying something about you and you just off them. This is opposite to God. God is a lover of life. Okay, God holds life, living creatures, as something that is sacred and precious. Understanding this is going to be really important because while rulers and shepherds, they bear the sword, and they don't bear it in vain. They don't just wield the sword first thing. They don't just wield the sword second or third thing, right? Fourth and fifth thing, last resort. This has gone on too long. Crime numbers are double what they are in other cities, something like that. But it's not something we like to do. It's not something God loves, right? It's actually something God hates to do, but doesn't mean he won't do it if it's necessary. Understanding this is going to be critical because when you see incidents like this is going to, people are not stupid. This is going to send shockwaves to the world, and everybody hears it and say, I'm not going to Russia. Lo and behold, you are going to lose the ability to be economically competitive. Okay, people are going to flee. They say, I want out of Russia. Okay, people are too cold here. It's like ice here. Okay, so Russia, one of the major things Russia needs is warmth and love. Okay, this is not the love of Jesus Christ. This is hatred. Okay, if you mess with me, I'm going to take you out. I don't care about you. It's hatred. It's of the devil. Okay, so understanding this is really important. Fathers are going to leave. Immigration is going to skyrocket. And so when you're seeing the war taking place in Ukraine, this is another blatant disregard for the love of human life. Okay, yeah, you're in the covenant is in God's covenant, within God's covenant, is not I get to do whatever I want, I'll kill whoever I want. It's nonsense. It's evil. Okay, the Vikings, yeah, they were here, and now they're all gone. Okay, you don't see the Vikings raiding people anymore. All right. The hatred of the Palestinians that led to the attack, October 7th attack on Israel, well, they're all dead and gone now. Okay, so hatred doesn't really build, right? Hatred dies. Okay, it causes death. It causes death, and then it causes death on itself. All right, it's not what God loves. And understanding this is important because this is a little girl, Sasha meets Russia, okay? And so I guess the Russian government pays her to give propaganda. And so she goes around, okay, hold on, right here. Okay, what's in her eyes right here? It's caution. There's a little fear in her eyes. Okay, this is, just looking at this video, you can tell she's a little scared. Okay, scaring little girls who are too weak to protect themselves. Not something that's going to really be attractive to anyone in the world. Okay, people are going to see this. They're not fools, right? People are real smart, and if you can read and pick up on it, well, so can other people. Okay, and so this is not really going to be benefiting Russia at all. Nobody's going to want a military person with a firearm directing them how to run their show or things like that. God loves freedom. You can tell that in the world, right? You see freedom. All the animals are out there happy. They're running around doing what they were built to do, and so are we in the USA. Okay, so This is going to be something that if Russia doesn't stop doing, it has no chance of ever becoming economically successful. Russia is not going to take over the whole world. Okay, you see them saying, "Oh, Oceanic, our missile's so fast." Well, they're not that much faster than other missiles in the world if you look. Okay, so understanding that you cannot conquer the world, maybe you could destroy it, right? But no one has been successful in conquering the world so far. Okay, so if you're trying to do something that no one else has accomplished, it's a very, very low likelihood of it being successful. Most people who've tried to do that didn't work out very well for them. And so understanding that freedom, right, letting people, loving people, not forcing the military to direct them, but saying, you know, hey, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to advertise, right? And, you know, paying people to forcefully advertise one nation, well, people are going to see that, okay? So understanding that, you know, what I'm talking about, it may not seem like it's very important, but without it, there's no civilization, there's no nation that has ever thrived. There's no nation that's ever been successful. There's no nation that has ever endured without love. Okay? So if you don't have that, if you don't establish that to where people are nice and respectful and loving towards another, well, how are they going to work together? How are they going to build together? And then you go into divided nations, people fighting amongst ourselves, like you're seeing some fringe groups in the U.S., right? And fringe groups who are refusing to be loving, right, and treat people good and are causing crime, you drive them out, right? But you don't drive them out just by bombing them first thing, okay? Right? You start with the tamer ways, right? Ways of mercy. This is going to play in to so many factors. I can't tell you, right? So Russia's trying to attract people, obviously, to their nation. Come visit Russia. It's great. You see Vladimir Putin saying, we wanted to get a seat at the table with the Westerners, but man, there's just degradation out there. Okay, well, if God didn't have mercy and love, we'd all be dead. Okay, that's the truth of it. So obviously, right, the degradation that's happening in America, LGBTQ, all that, well, it's costing America. It's not benefiting it, right? And so you're seeing also other authoritarian regimes try and force this down other people's throats, and it's costing them too. It's not making the EU thrive. It's stagnating it, it's weakening it, and it's making it more and more vulnerable to attack. It's the worst thing you could possibly do, right? Lo and behold, promoting theologies opposite to God, opposite to how God made it, it's not going to work. Okay? You try and run through a tree, it's saying, that's not what I believe, it's not going to matter. The tree's still there, you're still going to run into the tree. Okay, so understanding that's how it works. There's hard truths in the world that you cannot bend, you cannot break them. It has never worked in the past, it will never work now, and there's things that are moving forward. But some of the stuff, interestingly enough, some of the stuff people call progressive, it's actually regressive, and it's filth, right? But understanding that as people of the faith, we don't just hate people. We don't look at them and go, oh, yuck. You know, you try and help them. You try and lead them. You try and lead by example. And by leading by example, right, you have to be at the table. Okay, you cannot lead by example if you don't know someone. You can't lead by example if you pull up to someone and just start saying, I hate you, you're garbage. Okay? If you want to help someone, if you want to lead someone out of the filth, out of the, you know, ignorance of darkness, right? Some people, right, they've been taught, oh, God does it all for you. Okay? In order to help that person, you have to have a relationship with that person. And otherwise, you have no influence over them, right? So jumping to radical tactics, and then Russia's saying, oh, look at all this degradation in the world, and while they're killing people, it's kind of hypocritical. It's not really going to work out too well for Russia. So this will also go into establishing love, peace of mind over business in a nation, right? And so this is going to be a list of businesses owned by Russia, right? These are seized businesses. Interestingly enough, right, even though the Russian government is much, much smaller than the United States government, this is the U.S. government, businesses owned by the U.S. government. The U.S. government owns a lot more businesses. This is another complaint. This is complete 100% toxic poison, will destroy your nation if you are doing this. If you are seizing people's assets, okay, if you don't establish the baseline of the harder you work here, the more you get. If people are feeling discouraged, they say, the more I work, the more I'm taxed, I don't make any money. They're going to leave, okay? You can see the immigration numbers, people leaving, and you will be shocked because there is a direct correlation, especially when it comes to stuff like this. Okay, I've met people from Russia. They say, we were doctors, they weren't paying us enough, we left. And so this is going to boil down to how to keep, right, what ways of love will manifest in your nation and what ways of too much control, right? I want control over you is a very, very human thing, but you don't see God exercising control over people to the left and right all throughout the world. You see God letting people be free, right? And lo and behold, right, you will see God's wrath every now and then too. But if people are seeing this, right, I have seen millionaires, they say, I would never build a business in Russia. I would never go to Russia because, right, the reputation that is so precious that Warren Buffett talks about. If you lose money for the firm, I will be understanding. If you lose reputation, I will be ruthless. Okay? Because the amounts that are being seized, the values of these businesses, is far, far less than that which Russia is going to lose by seizing them. Okay? Understanding that is extremely important. Free market capitalism, right? Adam Smith's invisible hand, where the man will work, the man wants to build, it's just in our nature. Mankind loves to build cool things. It's what we've been doing from the beginning of the world. We're going to keep doing it until the end of the world. And as long as there is that correlation, they'll keep working. And you see people, billionaires, working extremely hard to build. They've established more wealth than they could possibly use in their lifetime, and they're still going. You know, Donald Trump, he says, I just love to make other people's lives better. That's correct. Okay, that's good. And understanding, getting this sort of mentality into your people, right? We're not going to seize your assets. The government's here to protect you, fight for you, help you build, get you loans, right? This is going to also play into countless other fields, right? As soon as the billionaires start saying we're not going, you lose all the investment, all the business, all the loans, all the financial transactions with the businesses, with the consumers, etc., etc., etc. So understanding that you're looking for win-win situations where the government and the citizens win. Here's an example of that. In Italy, there's some law in Italy where if you buy a house in Italy, you can't sell that house with favorable taxation within 5 years. This is incorrect. Okay? In the US, after 1 year, long-term capital gains goes into effect. This is competitive. And now let's think about what this does. And sitting down, this is something Sir John Templeton says, about 20 billion. He says, just read and just think about it. Just think about it, let your thoughts flow. So in regards to this law in Italy, all right, what is this going to do? Well, people will be holding on to houses longer before they're able to flip them. Okay, this is going to reduce and hinder the real estate market. The buyer who comes in, and you know, in the US there's all sorts of people who come in, they buy a house, they fix it, they flip it, they sell it. It takes them about a year to fix it, long-term gains, capital gains comes in, boom, they sell it. Okay, so you have the buyer the consumer or the citizen coming in, he buys the house, he fixes the house up. The house is looking nice, your nation's looking nice, this is something the government wants, right? Then they sell it, they flip the house, they get the tax revenue, the citizen makes a profit, the government and the house is fixed, the nation's looking good, and the government is getting more taxes from flipping these houses. And so going through and making sure that your tax system, capital gains especially, is competitive with the rest of the world. Little things like this are what's going to enable your nation to thrive beyond the rest of the nations. And lo and behold, right, you see the nations that are thriving, you see all sorts of people going to them, talking about them, traveling, you get tourism, etc., right? Understanding this is going to be important, right? But if you don't have love, if there's crime, if there's people getting beaten, if there's horror stories coming out on X, that's the first thing you guys got to address, okay? If there's a statistical outlier, you send in, if it's a bad enough statistical outlier, you got to send in the blackguard, okay? Understanding that's important, right? Evil is not going to stop terrorizing and hurting evil or good people. That's just the nature of evil. It doesn't necessarily have a logical goal. It just wants to destroy things and keep destroying things. And so, good rises up and stops evil, okay? So, right, seizing businesses. This is happening in Russia, July 2025, early 2025. People see this, you're not going to get a dime from business owners. Okay, they're going to say, no thanks. What if they seize my seize my assets? And I actually met a gentleman, he says, I worked in Russia for 40 years. Government came in, they took my business. I'm never going back. And he's here in the U.S., generating finance for the U.S. right now. So tyranny, things like that, where the citizen, you don't love your citizen, you're just, hey, I'm taking all you got. Don't expect to have that citizen anymore. And interestingly enough, right, sometimes that results in a massive net loss for the nation that is doing it. All right, so this is immigration numbers in Russia. 2005 through 21 says 30,000 through 80,000 people were leaving a year. 2022 through 2025, 500,000 to over 1 million a year leaving, right? This is some absurd number of financial loss, all right? Every year for the rest of Russia's existence, okay? People are not just going to forgive and forget as easily as some people might wish, all right? Average wage in Russia, 1,100. Average wage in the United States, that's 1,100 a month. That's the average wage in Russia. Average wage in the U.S., right? Very merciful, too merciful, and so we're pulling back a little bit. But average wage, 6,900. Okay, per month. All right. Understanding this is going to be really important because, right on the dollar bill in the U.S. it says, "In God we trust." Okay, so if you've got a version of God that's correct, built and established on love, and you're building on that, you're going to go a lot further. You're going to go a lot faster than a whole lot of other people who do not have the foundation set up properly. Okay. IMF funds in Russia. Okay. This is going to reduce who wants to lend to a nation that is willing to say, we're not paying you back. You try and get the money back, we'll Ukraine you. It's not going to happen, okay? So the detriment that is coming from these sort of hateful ideologies, I don't care about you, I'll just take your stuff. It's not going to be beneficial, right? Let's say you even seized 50 billion, still would not be beneficial, okay? IMF has not loaned to Russia since the 1990s, all right? So understanding that while these are intangible things that I'm talking about, they produce very, very tangible assets, right? Inspiring your people, leading them, making sure that you're standing as one, unified against evil, right? U.S. says they're going in against civilians getting killed in Iran. You call them up, you say, there's no way you guys are going in without us. You let us know. We see you going, we're going in too. Okay, this is how you're going to inspire your nations, standing for that which is right, standing bold as lions for righteousness, for God, right? This stuff, people, they get into it. It gets them. It lights them on fire. They say, freedom of speech. Australia, UK is banning it. We're out of here. We're going to the USA. Okay. Understanding you have to pick some things that are very, very good and stand on them no matter what. It's a rock that you die on. Understanding that people will see it, they love it. I mean, you see Elon Musk battling evil. He says, "Puh, I restored freedom of speech. Ain't no corrupt person." Everybody loves it. They love it. All right. And so lo and behold, all these people are flocking to X now, right? It's inspiring. And so make sure to look up the list of the 50 things that is common amongst highly successful people, and follow it, right? Make sure that that's what your nation's standing for, because Islamism, hatred, forcing people to do things they don't want to do, things like that, well, it's driving people out of the EU, it's driving people out of Russia, it's driving people out of Ukraine, right? People from all over the world are going to Ukraine to fight against Russia because they don't stand for what Russia stands for. They say that's evil, you're invading another nation. Understanding this is going to be important. And I looked up what religion Vladimir Putin was. It says he's Christian, but I'll tell you, killing innocent people and calling yourself Christian, that does not really look like the love of Jesus Christ. And so, while there is vast forgiveness in Jesus Christ and mercy, they forgot the love of God. They forgot the love of Jesus Christ. They forgot loving their brothers. And if you don't have love for other people, you're no disciple of mine.